Boys, UFC Fight Night Sandhagen versus Figueiredo is happening this Saturday, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what it is. Like, this card it's a good card. It's not like the worst card we've had this year, but I just had zero interest in the card, and I have no idea why. Maybe that's mainly the reason why this video isn't coming out on Monday and it's Wednesday as I'm recording this. But that being said, we're going to run through every single fight on this card and give you guys my rare predictions on who's going to win and how. Starting prelims, women's flyweight division, Juliana Miller taking on Ivana Petrović. Now, Juliana is she has like an aggressive fighting style. She has some good pace, pressure. In her fight, she wants to pretty much overwhelm her opponents with she tries to go some non-stop action, but she also has a decent reach for the flyweight division at 66 inches. However, she's just very inexperienced with only 6 professional fights, and her striking and takedown defense isn't that great either. Where Ivana, she is a pretty well-rounded fighter with solid wrestling, good heavy pressure, good BJJ, a good ground control, submission setups, and she does have skills to either end the fight in KO, submission, or she can go to the decision. She has an even better reach of 70 inches for flyweight, which is pretty good. Her striking defense also isn't that great though, and she can struggle to get some opponents to the ground if they are, higher level than her. In my opinion, I just think Miller isn't UFC level, and Ivana should be better everywhere. So I do want to say she's going to win every single round, but it's women's MMA. 29-28 decision win, Ivana Petrović. Let's get into some heavyweights, some slobs here. We got Thomas Petersen, Dontel Mays. Petersen is a decent wrestler who will come forward and go for takedowns, work in some takedowns. His striking isn't that good, and he doesn't really have, the classic heavyweight power. And he does have some decent accuracy, but doesn't really have any sting behind those punches. He also can be in trouble if he can't get his opponents to the ground. But typically, if he does get it to the ground, he does have some good control and ground and pound, where Dontel Mays is a decent boxer with some pretty heavy hands, decent footwork, some good setups. His combinations are pretty good. He's 6'6" with an 81-inch reach, and again, the biggest hole in this dude's game is definitely his takedown and submission defense. So because of that, I think, it's going to be a typical heavyweight blob fest, and either Petersen is going to get the fight to the ground and win there off of ground and pound, probably ground and pound, or Mays is just going to piece up Petersen on the feet all 3 rounds. I think Petersen can get the takedowns and land some ground and pound. I'm going let's go round 2, TKO ground and pound for Thomas Petersen. Moving down to bantamweight, Gaston Bolanos taking on Quang. Now, Gaston is a good Muay Thai striker with some pretty dynamic and powerful strikes, with some high striking accuracy, and he's pretty tough as well, and he has just that willing to fight and not give up. His ground game isn't the best though, especially his takedown and submission defense. Definitely the biggest problem areas in his game, where Quang is a pretty well-rounded fighter who has a Muay Thai-ish type of stance with some good movement, and he can get a finish either by submission, KO, he can go to the decision. He is really good at his takedown defense, but he does leave himself to get open a little bit too much. Even though he has good takedown defense, takedown offense is really bad, and honestly, he struggles to get people to the ground. I think it could, this could end up in a finish. I think Gaston's going to get it done. I think he could get the finish, but I think he will be winning pretty much every minute of this fight. I just think Gaston's better everywhere. Let's go 30-27 for Gaston. Moving down, women's strawweight division, Miranda Rodriguez taking on Gillian Robertson. Now, Rodriguez is a good Muay Thai striker with some good elbows, knees, some good clinch work. She has a pretty high striking volume, decent accuracy, and she's fairly durable in her fights, being able to go all 3 rounds if needed to. But her takedown defense is a huge issue against the elite grapplers. That's pretty much what's lost her last. I think she's 1-4 in her last 5. So pretty much every loss is because of that. Going down to Gillian Robertson is a very high-level grappler with the most submission wins in UFC women's history. And she has some dominant ground control, some of the best ground and pound work in women's MMA, and she is fairly dominant on the ground. But she can at times get very lost on the feet with very bad accuracy, very bad volume, doesn't really have any sting with her shots. If she can't get Rodriguez to the ground, she will 100% get pieced up all 3 rounds. But right now, Gillian is on, I think, a 4-fight win streak. All the momentum's on her side. I'm going round 2 submission win. I'm going to go rear naked choke. I think she'll be able to get the rear naked on Marina. Let's move down to the middleweight division. Ryan Loder taking on Azamat Bekoev. Now, Ryan Loder is a elite wrestler with some good ground and pound, some good top control, but he has a pretty limited submission game, and he does tend to rely on his durability and toughness because he can be a little bit overly cautious, and the right striker could 100% expose him on the feet, and I think he just has a little bit of a questionable cardio. We really haven't seen him use much of his cardio, so he has a little bit of a questionable cardio, where Bekoev is a pretty well-rounded fighter. He has some very powerful, accurate strikes with good takedown defense. He has good BJJ, and he can finish the fight from KO, submission, decision, wherever he wants to. He has a pretty good, strong grappling and top control, but his striking defense it can be concerning at times. He is a pretty slow starter, and he does rely on heavy top control because his takedowns themselves aren't really that good, to be honest. I think Azamat is more well-rounded than Loder. I think Loder's overcautiousness is going to get him caught in this fight. I think round 1, I think both these guys are going to be very, very cautious. Azamat's going to start off slow. Ryan's going to be very cautious. And then towards the end of round 1, I think Azamat starts to open up a little bit more. And round 2, Ryan's going to be still overly cautious, and Bekoev is going to land something nasty on. I'm going round 2 KO win for Azamat Bekoev. Ryan Loder really just never getting into that next gear. Let's go down to the women's bantamweight division. Yana Santos, Miesha Tate. This is the main event of these prelims. They have taken Miesha Tate and they put in her on the prelims on Apex card. Not an Apex, but a Fight Night card. But with that being said, Yana Santos is a high volume striker with a very effective use of her kicks to maintain distance and control the pace of the fight. But she has a strong clinch control, but she has pretty, almost zero finishing ability and can struggle with top tier competition, where Miesha Tate is pretty much known for her wrestling skills with good takedowns, the double legs, the body locks. She can also struggle with high level strikers, and she does have a tendency to get suckered into a brawl, but at 38 years old, she's been very inactive. I think it's hard to pick, but I think Santos is just plain out bad. Even though Miesha, yes, she's old as hell, she is pretty inactive. I think she should be all around better than Yana Santos, but it's still women's MMA. I don't know, 29-28 decision win for Miesha Tate. Let's go into this main card. Lightweight division, the return of who the fuck is that guy? Taking on Mason Jones. Now, Jeremy Stephens is a pretty heavy-handed striker with a very aggressive style and a lot of UFC experience. He has pretty strong clinch game. He's good at using the dirty boxing techniques, and he's fairly durable as well. But with his aggressive style, he does tend to get hit a lot, and he does engage in brawls, as well as having, a pretty limited amount of groundwork and submission skills, where Mason Jones is a high-volume, aggressive striker with great boxing. He's good at closing ranges with nasty elbows, knees, as well as he has a black belt in BJJ and just good takedowns. And because of his style, he also can get hit a little bit too much, as well as doesn't have the most experience against the top level in the UFC. That being said, both these dudes are having a almost second chance in the UFC, and I think they're gonna want to make a impression. I think they're gonna want to go out here and make an impression. So I could see them, getting into a brawl. And Stephens has only been training for brawls in BKFC, but if Mason has any fight IQ, he'll take down Stephens and get the win. However, I don't know if he has the IQ to do that. I don't know if he wants to go out here and prove something with a crazy brawl, swinging for the fences type of fight. If that's the case, I'm going Jeremy Stephens round 1 KO. Again, if Mason has any IQ, he'll go for the takedowns and he'll probably win the fight that way. Let's keep moving down. We have Cameron Smotherman taking on Serhiy Sidey. Now, Smotherman is a decently high volume striker with some good striking defense he can manage the distance pretty well, and he doesn't have the best accuracy in the world or much of a submission threat. He might have a questionable chin, and also, getting KO'd in the first round in his Contender Series fight, but it could have just been, perfectly timed, right on the button type of fight, but a little bit questionable. Where Sidey is a dangerous and lengthy striker with some crazy KO power for bantamweight. He has a 72-inch reach, which he does use pretty well. He has good volume, decent grappling, but he doesn't have the greatest takedown defense in the world. I think this is a super close fight. One of the closest fights on this card, but I don't think Sidey is really all that good, and his record is low-key a little bit deceiving because I don't know if he even won his last fight, to be honest. I don't know if Sidney's all that great. I'm going 29-28 for Smotherman. Maybe dropping the last round. Maybe getting caught on the last round. Something like that. Let's go down to bantamweight though. Bantamweight, Montel, Jackson, Daniel Marcos. One of my most anticipated fights on this card, to be honest. Montel Jackson has some of the craziest KO power in the bantamweight division with some good accuracy. His striking defense is good as well. He has great takedown accuracy, and he has some good wrestling capabilities as well. He has a 75-inch reach, which he uses very well, but on the ground he isn't much of a submission threat, and he has missed weight before, which is a little bit concerning. Where Daniel Marcos, currently undefeated, he is a pretty accurate striker with good power, good cardio, and can go all 3 rounds pretty easily with some pretty good takedown accuracy and good wrestling skills as well. But on the ground he also doesn't have much of a submission threat. But I think Montel Jackson is criminally underrated for this division. He's gonna be a big problem in this division, mark my words. I'm going round 1 KO. Is it going to be early? No, but I'll go halfway through point, round 1 KO. Montel Jackson, he's going to be a problem for this division. Moving down to welterweight now. The featured fight of the night. We have Battle of the Unks. Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Daniel Rodriguez. And Santiago is a high volume striker with some pretty aggressive, he has a pretty aggressive fighting style with decent power, decent speed and pressure, and he has a good job with combinations. He has good head movement. He's really good at distance management, but he does get hit a lot, and he is pretty limited on the grappling offense and defense, to be honest. Where Rodriguez is a good boxer with decent volume. He's good at using his range and staying out of his opponent's range, but he does really rely on his boxing technique over everything else. This is a classic Sunday night barbecue. The two drunk uncles battling against each other, the battle of the and I think it's going to be a stand-up fight only. I don't see this going to the ground once at all, this fight. And I think once Daniel starts to get going, he's going to completely take over the fight. I think he drops round 1, he gets round 2, and then almost gets a finish round 3. I'm going 29-28 for Rodriguez. Let's get into this co-main event now. Middleweight division, RDR taking on Bo Nickal. RDR is a great grappler with some good takedowns, great submissions, and has a very tall frame and build, which just gives him an overall advantage. And even though he does have these really weird poking out ribs, which are just begging to get hit, he also doesn't have the best striking in the world, and if he doesn't get the takedowns, he almost looks like a deer in the headlights. But Bo Nickal is a 3-time NCAA Division I national champion with some explosive takedowns, fast transitions. He often overwhelms his opponents early in the fight with some strong top control and pretty dangerous submission thrills, but he is pretty limited in the striking and lacks any real test against top tier competition. And because of the pure plot armor itself, this is probably going to be a draw because of the plot armor. But if I have to choose one person, I think Bo is better. I think he has better hands. I think he might get taken down, but he'll get back up. If it does go to the ground, I think he's more dangerous. He has more submission threats on the ground. I don't want to pick anyone because I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go Bo Nickal. I think it's going to be a very, very close fight. 29-28 split decision, Bo Nickal. Let's go down to the main event now. Bantamweight division. Cory Sandhagen, Deiveson, Figueiredo. Now, Cory Sandhagen is a very active striker with great footwork, good stance switches and movement, decent power, and some good technique when he throws a variety of punches, elbows, knees, kicks. He has good fight IQ, but he can honestly just overthink shit way too much, which could cost him rounds if he decides to overthink things in there. He has good takedown defense, but he can get stuck only throwing single shots rather than combinations at times, as well as he does struggle with fighters who can pressure and close the distance. Deiveson Figueiredo, on the other hand, is a very well-rounded fighter who can finish the fight everywhere. You know, he has very powerful strikes, good accuracy, a BJJ black belt, a strong grappling set of skills, and he's good at controlling his opponents on the ground with a pretty high fight IQ. And he can adapt mid-fight with good durability. He can maintain a high pace at all times. However, he can get suckered into a brawl, which could get him caught by a more technical striker like a Cory Sandhagen, as well as his takedown defense can be pretty limited. With that being said, as much as I want to pick Figgy, and a part of me is very, very convinced Figgy's going to get this done, the more I think about it, I'm going full Cory Sandhagen here. Me overthinking it, I'm picking Cory Sandhagen. I think he's probably going to win every single round. And, Figgy, I just don't think Figgy's going to have any success. Now that I overthink it, I'll just go decision win, Cory Sandhagen. But I want Deiveson to win. A part of me still thinks he can get it done. But final prediction, Cory Sandhagen, decision win. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think about this card? Honestly, it's not the worst, not the best. It's honestly a pretty good card. I'm not going to lie. I'm excited for a lot of fights on this card. And yeah, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.